Finally tonight, our series on teachers, testing, and accountability. On Monday and Tuesday, we heard from philanthropist Melinda Gates of the Gates Foundation and Diane Ravitch, a historian and former Assistant Secretary of Education. Tonight, we listened to teachers. Ray Suarez recently moderated a conversation, one of a dozen events in the past year held with teachers around the country. This one was organized by WNET in New York City, featuring educators from each of the city's 5 boroughs. It's part of our American Graduate Project, sponsored by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Earlier this spring, we invited a group of New York City public school teachers to talk about the dropout crisis. They are Kalila Brand, a social studies teacher at Brooklyn's Bushwick Community High School, Amanda Moskowitz, a science and math teacher at PS 279, Captain Manuel Rivera Jr. Middle School in the Bronx, Seth Guignals-Kupperman, a science teacher at Manhattan's High School for Math, Science, and Engineering, Jean Raleigh from PS 19, Curtis Elementary School in Staten Island, and Bobson Wong, a math teacher at Bayside High School in Queens. I wanted to talk to you about the national conversation, which is going on here in New York as well, of assessing teachers and trying to perhaps encourage those who aren't doing a good job to seek other careers, and promoting, encouraging, incentivizing those who have a knack for this. Is it a worthwhile question to be asking? And can it lead us somewhere that's useful for our kids?
I don't think anyone has a problem with accountability in and of itself. Anyone has a problem with assessment in and of itself. The problem is the implementation of it. Even when it's in a system where the teachers kind of promote it, the observation protocol. Most teachers who are in unions have some sort of observation that happens. For most teachers, the reality is maybe twice a year. Twice a year for about an hour. Imagine a job where the only decision as to whether you'll retain another year of satisfactory work is your administrator, your boss, whoever, looking at 2 one-hour experiences of what you do and a conversation afterwards of that.
I have been teaching 8 years. I think I've been observed 5 times. And never one time I was told, these are the things that you can do to improve. They never came back to see if I did it. Nothing ever happened. And so it's not just about being rated or ranked. It's like what are we really trying to do with teachers? What are we really trying to say?
We expect ourselves to differentiate, and that's considered good practice. But then there's no follow-through for the students on that, so their state tests aren't differentiated based on their needs. And then we're evaluated based on their state test scores, and there's no differentiation for our evaluations. So every teacher is evaluated on the same criteria, no matter where they're coming from, where they're teaching, who they're teaching, and what those students' needs are.
Testing has become such a big part of being a student in this part of the 21st century. Is it giving you the kind of information you want, the kind of information you need when someone just hits the front door and they're your new charge?
Well, we get a lot of information from standardized tests, particularly from the state tests. The problem is interpreting it correctly. So we have all this data from the city and from the state. It's a question of, do we have the tools necessary to really interpret it and understand that the score may not be what it represents? And that's a problem with assessment.
Has it been a useful tool for you, Seth, all this new data about what kids know?
I wouldn't say terribly much. What I'm more upset at is not that I don't have the tools, but that the tools that I have found that do seem to comport with and do seem to correlate with student achievement, student motivation, are ones that I either had to develop or research on my own.
Do any of you still find yourself surprised in October, in November? I thought you knew this already. I thought you were supposed to know this already.
Yes, and every time I say that, I think to myself, assume nothing. You want to make the assumption as a high school teacher, you have this foundation there, but I'm just at the point where as soon as I say that, I say, you know what? You cannot assume that they've gotten what they've needed to be at this point. they get passed through. And it's because of everything that's so high stakes.
I feel as an elementary school teacher that we do teach the curriculum, we teach living skills, we teach much to the students that they don't remember even the next day. You know, that's an issue. Retention on behalf of the student. Now, why is that? What do they do when they go home? What are they doing for extracurricular activity? What else are they reading? I sit in front of students and say, we learned this last week.
Can I jump into that? I think part of it is systematic. I think part of it comes from expectations. When the courses, at least in high school, are so separated, biology, chemistry, physics, earth science, there's so little in terms of the expectation from each course that you retained anything or need anything from the previous course. I think the message is clear to the student that the courses themselves are so independent from each other that you need not retain anything from the previous year to have success in the subsequent year.
I want to thank you all for your participation in today's program. Thanks for the work that you do, and thanks for helping raise the kids of New York and giving your working lives to that very noble and very vital task. Thanks a lot.
And you can watch our previous stories in this series online on our American Graduate page.